Hello, this is Craig, and this is my second day playing around with the Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro. I read all the comments that came through. I'd like to thank everyone for commenting. I had a lot of suggestions. First of all, one of them was take hot plasma seriously. So we've moved this machine away from all that cardboard that I had out there, and it is now kind of in a different location here in the building. I have reworked the water system. I'll go ahead and show you that now. All right, the first thing I did was I went and I replaced the drain plug here, and this here is a PROFLO PF83SS. This is just a mini, what do they call this here? It's a stainless steel junior basket strainer with a strainer, and I got this at the local plumbing store for about $6. I got 2 of them, and the hole needed to be cut out a little bit, so I used a greenly punch to do that, but it wasn't quite large enough. So since I had the plasma table, a friend of mine and I just cut these holes right to the right dimensions. We got this in. We used plumber's putty to seal it up. And when you want to drain it, you just pull this out, and it drains down at the bottom. Okay. So over here, I have all the slats put back in this one, and this drain seems to be holding, fairly well. And we can show you how well that's holding. I do have maybe, a little bit of water down in here, so it's not draining fast at all. Now up under here, I just use standard plumbing fixtures, and it turns out that this piece, this T, and this piece here are part of a kit, and then this is a 12-inch extension tube. I have the Home Depot part numbers for all this stuff, and then I got a 6-inch down tube that hooks on the bottom of that sink drain, and I bought another 12-inch one extension tube to come out of the T, and it just drains into my bucket. So one side of the table will pretty much fill this to about 2/3 of the way full, and it'll just drain whenever you unplug it. And then I also got over here, got this from one of the YouTubers. He said, don't use your wet dry vac that you know and love that cost you $100. Just use this thing called a bucket head. Okay, this is about $25 at Home Depot. And while you're there, pick up some extra buckets. This just clicks on here. So what I'm going to do is when I drain the tanks, I might as well drain them every day. Drain the tanks, pick out the pieces, and then I'm just going to use this bucket head and do a wet vac and pull up all the rest of the water. This thing here is a handy damn thing because you don't risk your nice wet dry vac. You just leave this on here and suck up stuff. So that's the changes I made there. And then based on another recommendation from a viewer, they said don't hold this large torch in the standard holder that comes from Langmuir. You want to go ahead and get the long torch holder from them. So ordered this from Langmuir. It shipped the same day. Kudos to them for that. I got this thing held in here. As far as the torch, I got this from George's Welding Supplies. I'll have a link for that in the show notes as well. I called up George and I said, George, I'm new to all this. What should I get? Do you want to get one of these torches? And I said, send me what I need. After a really long conversation with him, he's a great gentleman. I can't recommend him more. He sent me a bunch of extra consumables for things that after I told him I was going to do. That plate, what I'm going to show you here is that I'm cutting some you know, what red or thin regular steel plates, and he's just sent me a variety of these to cut different thicknesses of things. All right, so this is great. We just got this hooked up to the arm. So far, I'm like ecstatic at the quality of everything. Everything is super stiff. There's not really any play anywhere. Let's talk about the project I'm working on. So I have like 4 locations that I need to actually produce videos, actually record them, and then I go ahead and do the post somewhere else. And I'm required a lot of video equipment, you know, a bunch of camera bodies, lenses, you know, that type of thing. And so I wanted a solution that I could just, you know, pack up or leave it packed, and then just wheel up to a location and plug it in and then cable up everything and then do all the rigging for lights and the camera work. So part of that was, you know, what do I do? Where's basically my mobile production studio? So that's what I'm working on now. I'll go ahead and I'll show you some things here. I do have this modeled up in Fusion. Okay, so this is my 3D model I threw together in Fusion, and this is the Apache 5800, and I didn't model any of the outside stuff. I only modeled the inside, kind of the inside dimensions. So here's that ATEM Mini Pro, and this up here is that flat screen monitor, the Geoyeao 15.6 inch panel. And the connectors are coming out here, and the wires are going to run along here and have a little strain relief, and then they're going to go back down through this grommet here. And so both the lid and the surface here actually rotate up. This one rotates up so that we can get access to the storage area down in the cabinet. So I think I can come over here and say drive this joint. We can show you this thing here. So this is going to pivot up. And then down here you'll have this big piano hinge that I have. And then there's a rather large storage area down underneath it. So then see I have another joint here. This one here. If I go and drive this joint and close the lid, and then over here I can turn on this analysis slice, and we can see from the end, no, it's not that one, it's this one. You see from the side that we're not going to have a collision point between the monitor and our ATEM Mini. All right, well, so let's get back over to the workshop. Let's start with the physical things and what I'm actually testing. I'm doing some test cuts here to actually learn about what it is to use this Crossfire Pro. And I do have a Cut 45 behind me, the razor cut. First off, the box I'm using is I got this at Harbor Freight. It's an Apache 5800. This is the one that is kind of like a wheel-on luggage thing, where it's got the handle that kind of comes out of the back. It's pretty good size, and you know, with a coupon I got this for probably like $60, which is next to nothing. It's super rugged. And what I'm going to do with this is that I have a bunch of video production gear, like I said, but it's all going to be tied into this thing here. This is a Blackmagic design ATEM Mini Pro ISO. So what this is it's a video switch box, and it'll take in 4 HDMI inputs, 2 audio inputs, and the outputs, it has a USB output and an Ethernet port on it, as well as a monitor output, so I can see what's going on in all the cameras. It's called multi-view here. And what my plan is to mount this. I'll talk about that in a minute. But up in the lid, what I'm going to do is I have a 15-inch flat screen that I bought from Geoyeao. It's a 15.6 monitor, and it is a 1080p monitor, so it's 1920 by 1080, and it'll fit up here. It's going to fit behind this foam pad. We'll take this out. This lid itself has some, raised bosses back here. So what I have to do is cut a plate to fit in the lid, and I can screw it into these bosses, and then I can screw the monitor to that plate. And this one here, this thing here is it's really. This thing is awesome. If you should watch some introduction videos on this, if you're going to get into doing production, because I can easily do live streams with multi-camera setups and all that stuff, and then I can take the video from that, not just the production video, which is what comes out in the live stream, but this ISO device will record the program that you actually produced during the live stream, but it'll also it'll record the raw video from each camera, as well as the raw audio from each camera, the two audio inputs, and it'll make a DaVinci Resolve project file, and it creates all that on a USB drive. So I can roll up, my goal here is to roll up with my production studio here, with another box that I have my C-stands in, and soft boxes and that kind of thing, and lights. And then inside of here, I'm going to have this thing, and it's going to be mounted in a plate here that folds up, and will sit up here, and then down here in the body of this thing will have all my cabling, my camera bodies, my lensing, any kind of auxiliary lights, wireless microphone setups, all that kind of stuff will be down in the body. And so I can just wheel into a location, open this up, pull all the stuff out from underneath here, and get the production going there relatively quickly. Also, so I got to make the two plates, the back plate here, this plate here, and then I'm also going to make one more plate, which is going to be on the back of this thing, on the base of the back. And on the back, I'm going to have HDMI extender cables that are panel mount, as well as audio inputs, USB outputs, and I'm going to have some auxiliary 12-volt outputs for some 12-volt lighting that I have. I have those little square LED lights. I have a variety of those, so I'm going to power those in case I need to do some spotlighting or whatever. So this box here, and then you're also going to just plug it in with one of those IEC cables, and it's also going to have some auxiliary output, some auxiliary 120-volt outputs. In fact, I can show you those over here. So I had a bunch of these things here. So this is called an input, AC input module, because it has the AC input cord. It's used one of those computer cords and a power switch. And then I have also a bunch of these, which are just AC outlets. So, not being too familiar with how this thing works, what I'm doing today is just kind of learning more about it, getting it set up, turning it on, getting everything going. And then I'm just doing manual cuts today for two reasons. One, the first one I want to look at is the settings for power, as well as the speed of the cut. So that's going to be dependent on what I'm actually cutting. So what I have here is I have a variety of these steel plates that were cut out of an enclosure, and this is used for some industrial equipment. A compressor. We reworked the skin on a compressor, and I have at least 8 of these things. And I don't know what gauge this is, but I do know that it's 1.5 millimeters thick. So I'm not too familiar with, what is that gauge? What is that gauge, like 16 gauge, maybe? I don't know, 20 gauge, whatever. It's 1.5, and that's the size that I used when I was modeling this in Fusion, so I could get everything, all the elevations set correctly. It's painted on one side, but I don't care about that. This side's pretty clean. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually doing some test cuts. And what I've got over here is I have a test plate that I'm kind of devoting to this whole thing. And what I've done is run a bunch of different cuts at a bunch of different powers and speeds, as well as pierce delay. So I think that I'm going to end up going with this top one up here, which I think is 20 at 60 with a 1/2 inch pierce delay. And it's okay. It's okay on the back, you know, in terms of the, can't see anything, in terms of the dross that comes off the back, because, you know, I don't care what it looks like, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this out and I'm going to paint it anyway, so it doesn't matter what it ends up looking like. And what this dross is, I can just take this off with a grindy pad or something, you know, whatever. Okay, so that's what I end up doing. It's going well. It took me a little bit to get that thing to fire up, but you know, it's okay. I learned how to get it fired up today. So I'll go ahead and move my stuff out of the way. All right, so this is the same cut. This is the same cut I just made. This is 20 amps on the razor cut. I'm doing 60. I'm doing inch per minute, 60 inches per minute at with a 1/2 second of pierce delay. So here we go. Let me move my stuff out of the way. So I forgot to zero max this, but here's the last cut that I made. Show you this here. And the dross on the back didn't look that bad. So what I'm going to do is measure the width of this cut with my calipers and use that as in the post processing for fusion. And I'm going to cut some test squares. And this, yeah, I'm just going to play around a little bit today and kind of learn more about, you know, how well this works, which so far it's been great. All right, here's my cut for the outlet holder here, this little guy here. So it's pretty successful. Let's see what it does. Put this in like this. Ho-ho-ho! Would you look at that? First time. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. All right, now it's time to clean up. So I got my bucket head over here. We're gonna go ahead and we got the thing drained. It drained really well. Probably got a 1/2 bucket of water here. So I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum up the rest of it, and we'll see you next time. Make sure you take this out. All right, try two.